God, Doctor Who will return on December 2026 for a Christmas special penned by Russell T Davies. But that, my friends, is just the tip of the iceberg. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most. Ask your girlfriends and your wives. Your girlfriends and your wives are going to find me attractive. That's not my fault. That's not my problem. Take care of business and it won't be a problem. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X, on Snapchat BML60, and on TikTok Mad Mickey's Well. So yesterday was a huge news day for us Doctor Who fans, but the information came out in bits and pieces. So how I responded to it on social media was very, very disjointed, because I was reacting first of all to the breaking news that Disney will no longer finance and be involved or produce Doctor Who. So after 2 seasons of an absolute disastrous run, Disney are done. We knew Disney were going to be done. It was the worst kept secret. RTD kept on telling us no decision has been made. The decision was made a long time ago. Now, the reason that Ncuti Gatwa stepped down as the Doctor was put forward as scheduling. They didn't know when Doctor Who would come back again. Bullshit like that. That was nonsense. It is my belief that Disney were the ones that cast Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor and not Russell T Davies. Now, there's more information, because I'm going to read you a quote from the BBC, which is very, very telling. Because when I first heard that Russell T Davies was writing this Christmas special, I made the assumption that Russell would remain head writer and showrunner of Doctor Who. But if you read the quote, it's very telling that that's not the case. But here's what Russell had to say about the Christmas special. So he goes, "Here we go, away in a danger, jingle hells, silent blight, hark the weeping angels sing, come all ye Nimon." So he's trying to hype his Christmas special. RTD is being RTD. RTD is a very intelligent, clever man. And the reason we got all this so-called wokeness was to distract from the fact that RTD was running on Doctor Who Creative Empty. So, this is what the BBC have said. Now, I have information that you don't have about the BBC's attitude towards Bad Wolf and Disney running Doctor Who. If you notice with all these quotes we got yesterday, not one of them came from Bad Wolf Productions, because, like Disney, they will no longer be involved in the production. Now, there is a Doctor Who spin-off coming from the Disney-financed Doctor Who. Now, that was going to come out this year, then next year. Now, apparently, it's coming out later this year again. It looks like that this spin-off is a bit like a sticking plaster. You want to pull it off as quick as possible to dull the pain, so it's not as painful as doing it slowly, right? So the BBC remains fully committed to Doctor Who, which continues to be one of our most loved dramas, and we are delighted that Russell T Davies has agreed to write us another spectacular Christmas special for 2026. Now, they say that there's more quotes about a new series, so we'll get to that first, but it's very telling that they say he's agreed to write them a Christmas special. In other words, we're in charge now. Not Russell T Davies, not Bad Wolf, not Disney, the BBC. You can talk about Bad Wolf and Disney all day, but Doctor Who belongs to the BBC. But the BBC made a decision to allow Disney and Bad Wolf basically to co-finance this show. And that worked out really well for the BBC financially, but it got away from them. Now, originally, this wasn't the BBC's plan after Chibnall, right? they wanted the Happy Valley showrunner, creator, to run Doctor Who. And that would have been very, very interesting. I mean, her stuff is very gritty and grounded and dark in a lot of ways. Happy Valley is a great show. She is a brilliant writer. I think they may go her direction again. But of course, with everyone celebrating the ousting of Disney, we must remember that the BBC may create another co-finance deal with another Hollywood studio or company. I would rather the BBC low-key finance it with a lower budget, put out 5 to 7 episodes a season, but we work with a lower budget and lower production values. I'm very happy for Doctor Who to be produced that way. With Disney confirming they will not be partnering on the next season of the sci-fi show, the BBC remain fully committed to the show and will announce plans for the next series in due course to ensure the Doctor's adventures continue. So this is all very, very interesting, boys and girls. This is a very, very complicated situation. So it's clear to me that the BBC saw Doctor Who getting away from them, that a disastrous situation was running away from them. So obviously there was huge problems during the Ncuti Gatwa era, the RTD2 era. As I say, it was pretty obvious that RTD was running on Doctor Who creative empty, and he was trying to distract by enabling the culture war. As I say, RTD is a very clever guy. If everyone's furious with him for being apparently woke, then they won't notice that his show is rubbish and running on creative empty. No one can make any excuses or any spin or cope for what's been going on since the Chibnall era. But at the very least, Chris Chibnall had a vision, a definitive vision for Doctor Who. Whether you like that definitive vision is another conversation for another time. But he had a vision for the show. RTD2 had no vision. It was a disaster. And the last finale was a fucking joke. It was terrible. Why did Ncuti Gatwa step down as the Doctor? Why was Ncuti Gatwa going to be on Eurovision? Then he wasn't going to be on Eurovision. Why was Ncuti Gatwa removed as the Doctor? As I said earlier, we were told it was because he didn't want to hang around and reject other projects because the BBC didn't know if Disney would want to be involved again. And a few weeks later, a few months later, we now know that Doctor Who will return in 2026, Christmas of 2026. There you go. Ncuti would have known this. Russell T Davies would have known this. So the idea that Ncuti stepped down because he didn't want to reject other projects was utter bullshit. Ncuti Gatwa was fired as the Doctor, most probably because Disney cast him as the Doctor. So an absolute mess is going on, and the BBC have gone to RTD. RTD probably wanted to leave without doing this Christmas episode, and they probably went to him, "Oi, mate, RTD, wrap up your shit and then fuck off," right? I think this is what's going to happen. This is what happened. I think this is the discussion. Now, we all know how insufferable Doctor Who Twitter is and how insufferable WhoTubers are with their upper class accents and their authoritative takes on Doctor Who. They never speak an ounce of truth about Doctor Who. So we are getting a Christmas episode written by Russell T Davies, and I think that will be the end of Russell T Davies on Doctor Who. I said in my last video when I spoke about Doctor Who that it was time for Russell T Davies and his cronies to move on. I'm very grateful for his original 5 seasons. I absolutely am grateful as a Doctor Who fan that he brought the show back so wonderfully. But I have no idea why he came back to run Doctor Who. His claim was to protect the show. Good job. It's Sally Wainwright who created and ran Happy Valley. It's Sally Wainwright, the BBC wanted. Now, if Sally Wainwright is the next head writer and showrunner of Doctor Who, there's a good chance that Sarah Lancashire, who she worked with on Happy Valley, may be the next Doctor. There's a big chance, even if it isn't Sarah, it will be a female Doctor. I've never had an issue with a black, trans, female, white, or whatever Doctor. That's not important. The important thing is, whoever you cast as a Doctor, whoever's writing the Doctor, makes the Doctor the Doctor. The BBC, and whoever's going to run the show now, has to make the decision. Is all they care about, hurting right-wing Doctor Who fans, and in turn hurting Doctor Who, as they have done since the Chibnall era, or do they want to uplift the entertainment model and Doctor Who? That's the decision they have to make. I'm not a right-winger. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm a lover of great entertainment and Doctor Who. And I want Doctor Who to go back to being fun. Doctor Who hasn't been fun for a very long time. It used to be fun to watch Doctor Who. It's not anymore. So it wouldn't surprise me if Sally Wainwright is going to run the next series of Doctor Who. That was the original plan, and I was all for that because she's a very, very talented writer. And of course, if we get a female showrunner and a female Doctor, the discourse from right-wing YouTube and social media will start up. But they're not my bosses. I'm not influenced by them. Yes, I do consume their content. They do amuse me, and some of the things they say about entertainment are absolutely fucking true. But politically, I'm not with them, and I have no issue with a white Doctor, a female Doctor, a black Doctor, or whatever Doctor. That's not important to me. What's important to me is the Doctor is the smartest person and the biggest personality in the room. Whoever plays the Doctor, whichever identity plays the Doctor, that's the most vital component. And Jodie Whittaker's Doctor wasn't the smartest person in the room or the biggest personality in the room. We've also had this underdevelopment of companions since the Chibnall era. They haven't had an interest in creating a great Doctor or great companions like RTD and Moffat did before. It was more about their identity. They wanted Jodie Whittaker's Doctor to be in love with her female companion. And that was more important to them than making a great female companion. I've told you before. If I want to run Doctor Who. I want to run Doctor Who and play the Doctor. Never going to happen, but I have a vision for the show, and I know I could make a great Doctor Who show. But it's never going to happen. I'd love to consult on the show at the very least because I love it and I care about it. So all these announcements we got yesterday, and let's take it back a notch. Let's just get the headlines right. Disney will no longer finance and produce Doctor Who. That's a good thing as long as we don't get another Hollywood streaming service or studio financing Doctor Who. I want Doctor Who to be financed and produced solely by the BBC. If that means a cheaper Doctor Who production, I'm all for that. We also now know that the show will return for a Christmas special on December 25th, 2026. Now, who will play the Doctor in this Christmas special? Last time we saw that ridiculous situation where Ncuti Gatwa became Billy Piper. I don't think that RTD, Russell T Davies, had a definitive plan. It was just something he threw out there. So you would maybe assume that Billy Piper will be the Doctor for however long in this episode, and they've got another Doctor floating around in David Tennant's 14th Doctor, so they could have a great ratings extravaganza here, where David Tennant and Billy Piper having an adventure at Christmas, travelling in the TARDIS, which could be quite fun. That gets all wrapped up, and then whoever takes over starts a new era. I think everyone is saying that. So I think Russell T Davies, after this Christmas special, and I think the smart money's on this, I'm not the only one saying this. In fact, I didn't realise this and I didn't think about this till other fans were saying it. The wording was very, very interesting, wasn't it, boys and girls? So I think RTD will wrap up his shit, he will be gone, and somebody else will take over. And I'm hoping it's a purely BBC produced Doctor Who, going back to the Doctor Who values of a fun, TV show, time travelling TV show, and a little bit educational at the same time. Something kids and families can watch together like it used to be. That's what we want. So I think RTD is absolutely done. So we're going to be getting announcements in the near future. I spoke about this the other day. I expected Doctor Who to have a longer break. I thought maybe we would have a 3-year to 5-year gap. But I also did say that it was never going to be this 20-year wilderness years thing. Doctor Who, as the BBC keep on saying, and they're not lying, is very important to them. There's lots of money to be made by making a modern Doctor Who TV show. All they have to do is put the right person in charge. It's as simple as that. Russell T Davies is done after this Christmas episode. I think it's very clever. Obviously, they have some plans somewhere along the line. So they said to themselves, let's not do a Christmas episode this year. Let's do one next Christmas. That gives us time to look for a new showrunner, cast a new doctor and companion, right? We can make all these announcements before the 2026 Christmas Day special, and then I would assume the new series of Doctor Who would return. Doctor Who would return as a series in 2027. So if you look at the kind of gap, so what is it, 2025, you're looking at a 2-year break from one series to another. I know we're getting the Christmas special on Christmas Day of 2026. These are the right decisions from the BBC. Let's see if they keep on making the right decisions. But yesterday was a huge day to be a Doctor Who fan. And I think absolutely Russell T Davies is done after this Christmas special. And I think that's absolutely the right decision.